Welcome to How to Beat Akshan, and today we're going to look at how to beat one of the strongest laners in the game. And it is very, very tough to beat this champion consistently because a lot of stuff is actually out of your control. There is definitely a lot of things that we can still abuse to put the odds in our favor, but there was a reason why I put the ban screen at the beginning because we cannot consistently beat this champion all the time because of what the champions get does. And that is completely fine. So let's take a look at what we can do. And we're going to start with Akshan's strengths. So his early lane, extremely strong. He has an inbuilt shield. He has a double auto attack passive. He has a lot of wave clear. He has mobility. Yeah, he's just extremely strong. He's also very versatile. He can take different rune setups depending on what he needs in the lane, and therefore he can always win lane or avoid lane depending on what situation he's in. He's also very good at roaming. Of course, he has the invisibility in his passive, and that allows him to roam to both sides of the map without you knowing exactly where it is. So if he gets together with wave clear and the invincibility, right, that becomes a very big problem for roaming. Because if you have fast wave clear and you're able to translate that towards a side lane, that's problematic. He's also pretty good at avoiding ganks. Like there's only a certain type of jungler that can lock him up in the lane. For example, Jarvan ult, Vi ult, all that stuff. Otherwise, he can always just E out, especially if he has vision, prior vision to them. So he's not that vulnerable in lane. He has to make mistakes to actually get put into that bad situation. And also his early skirmishing is extremely strong because he gets resets on his E once he gets a cooldown of a takedown. That's what it is. So what are his weaknesses actually? Well, he's actually really hard to play in the late game, like really hard. Because usually in the late game there's a lot of multi-threat, and that's kind of what Akshan struggles against. He's still an AD carry, right? So when you're playing against a Hecarim and a Sion, yes, in the early game he can do a lot, but in the late game it's going to be very hard for him to play. That makes it very hard for him to navigate the game, and it's very easy for him to just die on the spot and do nothing. Another thing that he struggles with is he can get interrupted on his E. Like there's certain champions, for example, Anivia W or any other champions with that move Akshan from a certain spot can interrupt his E, and that's really problematic for him because his E is his escape tool. That's his self peel. And he also struggles against poke. He has actually not that long range, and if you tether him correctly and you poke him out, he doesn't have the sustain as well in his kit, so he's gonna struggle as well. So certain strong laners or counter matchups that can poke him down, for example, Victor, Syndra, those are better champions that you can pick into Akshan because you can actually outrange him and put him a bit under pressure. As we discussed, he has medium-low range, that makes it also in team fights pretty hard for him to play. So what does Akshan actually want to do? Akshan is looking to win lane by taking extremely aggressive trades early. Like he wants to walk up behind the minions level 1, level 2, and then in an ideal situation, if you actually take the trades with him and you don't give the creeps, you're gonna get Dove in the tower, level 2, you're gonna lose the lane on the spot. That's ideally what Akshan wants to do. So Akshan wants to win lane by taking good quality trades. And after that, he's gonna, after he takes lane control, he's looking for skirmishes and he's looking for roams, especially with his invisibility and his wave clear. So if we can avoid early skirmishes, and if we can avoid the lane a little bit, then, especially if we're playing a control mage, then we should be in a pretty decent position. When it comes to the mid to the late game, right? He is using the special ops mindset. I'm not sure if you guys seen my LeBlanc guide with Coach Curtis. It's on his channel. Really recommend. I talk about the special ops mindset. And what that is actually he's permanently looking to assassinate enemies, and he's positioning himself in a way that he is able to do that. So if you're playing against Akshan and you don't know where he is, just think about the fact, okay, he's looking to kill me or someone else in my team by picking us off in the side lane, in the jungle, whatever. Because as we noted, right, Akshan is pretty hard to navigate in fair front-to-back team fights. So he wants to make picks and get man advantages and play through that. So what are the threats to Akshan? What is he weak? What is he weak to? How can we actually beat him? So the way we beat Akshan is by playing towards his weaknesses, especially, and allowing him that he cannot really fulfill his strengths. So what we gotta do is we gotta respect him early, and we cannot die. So what we have to do is we have to maybe give XP of one of two creeps. That sometimes happens. As long as we respect him, do not take bad traits, and we do not die eventually. Stay out of his range. What we discovered is that he has medium range, so it is very tetherable, and if we get into his AA range, he's gonna massively outtrade us. Bow plating is also really, really good for Akshan, because Akshan, especially when he wants to assassinate you, he usually swings in with his E, or he really wants to burst you and then get out, otherwise he's going to get collapsed upon. So bone plating really allows you to stay alive against his burst, and I talked to an Akshan main for this guide as well. Whenever an enemy takes bone plating, he's already tilted before the game begins, so bone plating is definitely a good rune to take. So Akshan will go for roams, like he will roam in the game. So how do we actually counter his roams in the game? So usually when you play against a very roam-oriented champion, what you can do is you can deep ward in the lane. And that actually shows then where these guys are walking towards. With Akshan, it's a bit different. Akshan has stealth. So what he can do is he can actually look like he's going to walk towards top, then press the stealth, and then actually walk towards bot lane. Which can be extremely, extremely annoying, because that fucks with your brain. So how can we actually counter this? If you're playing against an Akshan, you need to be aware of the map. And you have to actually take a look at your bot lane and your top lane. Who is overextended? Where is Akshan going to roam to? And that is what we have to predict, and that is what we have to ping out, of course. Of course, that can sometimes still be a gamble, but usually you don't have two pushing lanes. And if you do, that's still okay, because then we can still ping back both lanes. Because then we see that Akshan has opportunities on both lanes, and that is what we have to understand. We have to think like Akshan and understand, okay, where is he going to roam? That is what we want to ping off. Also avoid early game skirmishes, especially if you're playing control mages, which actually are pretty decent into him. We do not want to skirmish because he's way stronger than us, and if he gets a lead into us, we're still in trouble. And in mid to late game, we always want to respect him when he's not on the map. So if we want to push out a side wave, because we need 150 gold for our item spike, we cannot walk up. It's not possible, because the chance of him being there and the chance of him making the pick on you is game breaking, and that's something that we want to avoid. So we cannot push out the side lane waves, and just chill and stay safe under vision and with your team. And finally, team fight, of course. We talked about it, he struggles against multi-threat and he has medium range, so it's pretty hard for him to navigate himself in those team fights. So drafting versus Akshan. What are good champions? What are bad champions? We have, of course, Anivia. Anivia can match the wave clear post level 6. She can interrupt his E, and she can stay alive early. It's okay if she drops a few creeps here or there. So Akshan cannot really bully the Anivia, and Akshan mains hate this champion. Also, Pantheon. He can stat check Akshan, actually. He's one of the stronger laners. And he poses quite a bit of threat onto Akshan because of his W, especially if there's a ganking oriented jungle. He can cancel, with his W, can also cancel his E if he comes too close. So Pantheon is actually a pretty decent pick into Akshan. And then finally Yasuo. Yasuo is also very good at surviving lane, and he has multi-threat with his ultimate. So if he's playing with any kind of knock-up in the game and it lands on Akshan, he's dead on the spot. Now, what champions do you not want to pick into Akshan? And these are my mains by coincidence, you know. So we got LeBlanc, because Akshan actually is LeBlanc, but then better. Better in lane, better in skirmishes. The only thing that he lacks is the facilitator ability. He's brought over more carry, but he's stronger laner, he has stronger picks, stronger skirmishing, better roams, more damage. It's very hard for LeBlanc to play, to get any kind of wave control. The only thing that you can do when you're playing LeBlanc is pray that your jungler ganks you, and you can lock him down with your E. But even though that sounds maybe good, but Akshan can actually counter that by Eing out as well. So, you know, LeBlanc is just not the ideal pick here. Same as Yone. Yone's trading patterns are very linear in a way. So if you're playing against Akshan, it's extremely hard to lane against him because he has the shield, he has the bone plating himself, and if Yone wants to go in, Akshan takes no damage, and Akshan heavily out damages Yone. So it's just really, really rough to play Yone into Akshan. Now let's take a look at a few examples of how to beat Akshan. Alright, so there's one major Akshan micro interaction that we have to be aware about. Akshan is gonna dive you sometimes. It's just gonna happen, it's inevitable, especially with the amount of heavy trading that he does. So, if we are about to get dove by Akshan, where do we need to stand? What do we need to do? So let's take a look at what Akshan wants to do. Akshan, ideally, if I land it, I'm not an Akshan player, my bad. Ideally does this. He goes around here, gets the hit off with his E, goes through the tower because that's what they can do, and get out here at the other side without taking too much tower damage. Right, so this is ideal. You can also do it from the other side, but it's a bit less efficient because we kind of get stuck on this bump here. So ideally, Akshan does this one. Right, very strong swing. So what happens if we stand right here? This is where I see a lot of people stand. Maybe even right there. This is where I see the most people stand. If we stand right there, it's not really ideal. What he can even do is he can even do this. I've seen a lot of Akshans do that. A lot of damage, very hard to escape the dive. So that's one where we can stand, where we shouldn't stand. Another place is possibly right here. Right there. That's a bit better for this swing, as we can see. Like, he cannot really angle it because he doesn't get into too much range. So in that case, right, he usually goes for this swing, which is also still fine for him. It's not really it's not really ideal, but it's still fine for him. This one's already better than that one, but it's still not optimal. So where do we want to stand actually if we play against Akshan? In my opinion, it's right here. So what do we see right now if we stand right there? We have this ideal spot here for the swing, which he cannot go through. So he cannot dive you with the swing right here. He can do this, right? But then it's actually very easy for us to block him, because what we want to do in the dive is we want to block his E. So if we see him then hook onto right here or right here, we want to move up, right, to cancel him and block him in his E, because that's the main goal, to block him in his E, because then he has to kill you under tower while getting the tower shots, and then he has to still like E out, which takes a few seconds, so it takes like 1 or 2 more tower shots. We might trade kills in that case. So ideal space to stand against an Akshan when he's diving you, behind this tower. Massive to know. Alright, so we got a beautiful example of Chovy playing Victor versus Akshan. Let's take a look at how he plays this. So first of all, Chovy opted in for Airy and Exhaust, which I think is fine. I especially like Airy because, as we noted, Akshan struggles against Poke. We see that Akshan took Ignite, so that's gonna be he's gonna try to kill us. So what we can do with Victor is we can outrange him like this, right, and start stacking this Poke up onto him. And this is perfect because we can outrange him, space him like this, and we should get a pretty decent trade. But what we see is Chovy kind of misplays here and kind of mistetters Akshan Q and auto attacks, but it's fine since we got Corrupting Potion and we can just trade back onto him. Ideally, we tether that a bit better and we don't take this 40% trade for Akshan and 20 for us, but rather just keep it 10 for 0 by just outranging him with our Q and with our E. I like that way more. So a lot of heavy trading right here. We still got a lot of potions left, and we can see that Akshan is already struggling a bit. The area and the Scourge really are racking up. We're going to get pushed in, of course, and that's okay. So it's very important that we start landing our E's here. Like, if we land our E's like this, we're actually chipping away at Akshan's health bar. And what happens when Akshan is low, the lower he is, the less threat he poses up onto us. So that's also really, really good for us. We do got to keep in mind, we do not have TP, so we got to be a bit careful with our mana usage here. We do have cookies though. What I really like that he does right in this situation is that he stands outside of the wave. Because Akshan kind of wants to get into a decent position to reset, and so do we. So if Akshan thins this wave and hits us with a Q, we're in a pretty rough position. So the fact that we stand outside of the wave right here allows, make sure that Akshan has to either choose the wave or us to trade upon. And that means that we can just keep the slow build into him and eventually go for a good quality tempo reset. So right now we got the health advantage. We just walk up, we poke him down, we have the slow build. He has to base right now, otherwise he's in range to get dove by Poppy. Perfect base, up a lot of CS. We go Doran's ring because we want more laning power, which I think is pretty fine. And what we can see right now is that wave is slow pushing back into us, which is good. We want to be safe. We want to just be poking the Akshan out of from our longer range. As we can see, like, it's really, really hard to for the Akshan to play actually. And every single time we have our cooldowns up, we walk up, we make sure that we dodge his Q, make sure that he slowly pushes back into us, and we're really, really chilling like this. Another E, and we're slowly chipping away at Akshan's health bar. It's really, really hard for him to play. Once again, very nice positioning by Chovy, not inside the wave, so Akshan get a high value Q, it's outside of the wave. He even whiffs the Q, and he doesn't have the lane control right now, so right, ideally Akshan Qs this wave, right, gets the push in, and then goes for a reset. But because Chovy stood outside of the wave, Akshan missed his wave clearing ability onto the Victor. So now the Victor can contest the Akshan when he tries to get this wave in. And it wouldn't, I haven't seen the VOD before, but it wouldn't surprise me if he takes a bad reset right here. And that's exactly what's happening. Next wave is a cannon wave. It does seem like Chovy stays. Very ambitious choice. We could have also just reset ourselves, matches reset, and we would still be completely fine. And Akshan loses like 4 or 5 creeps more than us. But it seems like Chovy decides to stay. And he is just denying Akshan the creeps, which is fine. We got a few resources, but we do not have full C-pot right now. We do have the level lead, which we can use to actually force ourselves onto a good reset in the end. We get ganked by Talia, but we have to flash. But that's okay. We soak some jungle pressure and jungle flash. That's also pretty big. And right now, our goal is to get a good quality reset off real soon. Let's see what happens here. Oh, Akshan does the dive thing. I'm wondering. Yeah, I think Akshan. I think he took the wrong wall. Actually, I think he took the wrong wall, but maybe it was good for him. Otherwise, he would have run into the Lulu, regardless. So we have to take a pretty bad reset here. Otherwise, we're gonna die. But it is what it is. We take the L. That's completely fine. We're still heavily up in XP and in CS. So right now we try to isolate the lane, put some pressure onto this Akshan, make sure you cannot do nasty roams, and start chipping away at this HP bar. This, very dangerous. As we can see, extremely, extremely dangerous. This is the stuff that we want to avoid. Like, when we're on the long lane and we have no minions, he can just do this. We have no interrupt, and he deals a lot of damage to us. So this was a very nice trade by Akshan. Still fine, we got a lot of potions here, and we can just chip away at this HP bar. And if we get into this situation with this CS advantage and XP advantage, we should be in a winning position against an Akshan. Now let's take a look at a VOD at how we should not play into Akshan. Alright, so let's take a look at this VOD of how not to play into Akshan. And what we see right here is we're seeing it from the Akshan's perspective, but I'm going to be commentating what the enemy team does and what they shouldn't have done in this game. So what we see right here instantly, Yone tries to get an early CS, just going to get punished. So what we do is we just try to stay in XP range and give it. Look how much HP that we lose, it's crazy. And if Akshan walks up a bit closer, maybe next time, he can get another combo of auto attacks in, and then we're already at 60% HP. So we gotta be very careful with that. Diana goes for a little bit of an invade, steals the red buff, that's pretty big. And as we can see is, as Yone, you just have to give here. And that's completely fine. We can, if Akshan 2 stacks into us, that's really good. Because then we can try to avoid the lane. But what we can see here for Akshan is he just keeps pushing into Yone. Gank, doesn't matter, he just ease out. It's all completely fine. And what now the biggest problem is that this Hecarim is going to invade. And this is a game-losing play from the enemy team. So if you guys see in your team, right, that your jungler is invading the enemy jungler, but you're playing against Akshan, you want to ping it back at all costs. Because as we can see, these early skirmishes right here, Akshan is just railing everyone here. It's crazy. So 1 kill and a blue buff for Akshan. He has full lane control. If there's early game skirmishes or scuttle skirmishes, stuff like that, you don't want to engage. You just want to ping it off at all costs. It's so important you ping it off. You're gonna lose the game on the spot in a lot of situations here. So Akshan is now just slow building into the Yone. Yone is trying to get some CS. It's really hard to do that. And as Yone, it's very important that we stay healthy here. Otherwise, we're just going to get dove by Akshan. Akshan is landing very good Qs actually. And I think as Yone, it might be time to base. Because there's definitely a dive angle for Akshan and his jungler. And I'm pretty sure that if Akshan gets one more trade onto this Yone, he can also dive him himself. So let's take a look at what happens here. So Jax actually shows up mid lane. And it's just absolutely game over from this point. It's just absolutely game over. there's no point in, especially if we're playing a challenger, right? Like it's gonna be over. What's gonna happen now is Akshan's gonna get full lane control. He's gonna get a good reset. Yone is gonna be a full level down. He cannot ever trade onto the Akshan. Akshan is gonna get full wave control, lane control, and he's gonna perma roam and perma pressure both of the side lanes and Diana and Hecarim in the jungle. So jungle cannot play, top cannot play, bot cannot play, and mid is already lost. Just because of what this champion offers here. It's very oppressive. It's gonna be a very quick game. So this once again shows do not skirmish or like early game skirmish into Akshan. Give him the respect in the early lane, and especially if you're in a matchup like Yone Akshan, like it's so rough. Your windows in the game are very little. So it's very good for like looking, okay, what can I improve? What can I do better? But if you want to win the game, it's going to be very challenging. And that's something that you have to understand. And we just play for improvement. And that's completely fine. So I thank you all for watching. And I see you guys next week with a new video. And I wish you guys a great week. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.